Gents, welcome to the show. Welcome to Council Future Conflict episode 415. We're talking about the tyrannical moment and Russia don't care. Those are our topics for today, but a lot of stuff going on in the world, and we'll be talking about some other things too. And as always, we've got a nice lineup of folks. Now, this may turn from a nice good setup that we have here to a rather thin cast. As we go, because I know some folks are going to have to drop off. So bear with us. It just may be me screaming into the void by the end of the show. So, but that would be better than what happened on Monday, which is essentially I had something come up at the last minute and I wasn't able to get to participate. And Watcher, you've been super busy, so you weren't able to pick up the reins like you normally do. I felt bad because that left kind of Joe in the lurch because Joe, I think, was ready to go. So anyway, we weren't able to make the show happen on Monday. Apologies all around. Watcher, you're pretty damn busy these days.
Yeah. The next, probably till the middle of next week, I am like dog chasing its tail around in circles busy. As you guys know, I manage some buildings and some properties. A lot of them are empty lots at the moment. And the thing about that is that we're right next to the state fairgrounds, and the state fairgrounds has zero parking, none. They built the state fairgrounds that did not think about parking. And so it has kind of become a tradition that, like, if you own a home or any kind of property that are near these state fairgrounds, you make a very large portion of your income by charging large fees in order to park in your parking space. And when I took it over, I just kind of did what I did, and I kind of professionalized it for us. Like, started doing parking passes and had security that was actually checking to make sure that people had paid to park and that kind of stuff. And very quickly kind of became like the premier place to come. And the second year now we are incredibly busy. So well, I am having to run around between 3 properties with tens of thousands of additional people, tens of thousands of additional people in our town. And try and keep all of those people from trying to park on our property for free, while at the same time maintaining enough personnel and staff levels at various places to actually help customers, and then also make sure all those people get fed, get watered, and then get where they need to be at the end of the night. So it's and then count all the cash, and then deposit it at the bank, and then we also run a small concession stand, and so I also have to make sure that stays stocked. And my daughter is running a little lemonade stand as well, and so I'm having to help with that. So,
it's and people, I bet, are loving that.
Yes, yeah, they are. So,
yeah, cute little kid selling lemonade is always gonna, people will just buy it even if they don't even drink lemonade.
Yeah. Jay Clark, I would compare it to a 3-legged dog trying to bury a turd on a frozen lake, but yeah.
That's actually the ass kicking contest is one of my favorites. I remember old granddad saying that as a kid. So, all right. Well, Don, you have joined us this morning. We appreciate you for being here. How's life in the in the dusty part of Texas?
Dusty still, as it's going to be. Before I get to me, I don't want to forget, it's very, very important that everyone who possibly can tweet pictures of themselves drinking a white monster at one Joe Dolio.
Definitely. Oh, definitely.
Every single person who has access. I don't even care if what you do is walk into a store, don't open it, and just put it up to your mouth like you're drinking it, take a picture of it, and send it to Mr. Dolio. This needs to happen. Everyone get in on this immediately, as quickly and as hard as possible.
Does it have to be a white monster?
Yes, it does. Again, I don't care if you actually drink it. I just hold it up to your mouth like you're drinking
No,
it.
I'm just trying to think of where you even buy one of those these days.
They're pretty popular at most, like convenience stores.
No, the green one got popular out here, and that's what most people are stocking.
You mean like a green can, not like the black and black?
I don't know what it is. I don't keep up with it, but yeah, it's green and white can, and it's got like tribal-y stuff on it. I don't know what it is.
That's gross. I hate that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Well, look, I'm a guy who drinks Rippets by choice, so I'm sure my thoughts on this are not useful.
But here's the thing: the U.S. Rippets are not as good as the overseas Rippets were.
They're not. I don't know what the difference is, but they're not as good.
Yeah,
I'm the overseas ones were like a smaller can, but I felt jittery after having just like that small can.
Yeah,
I think, but personally, my theory has always been that. Maybe substances that were later found to be in certain banned pre-workout supplements might have found their way into the overseas editions.
That might be the case.
That wouldn't
see. Now we need to figure out how to smuggle Rippets into the U.S.
Uh-oh.
That's for no reason whatsoever.
Good shorty imported Rippets. Yeah.
Add that to the letters of marquee list. I love your moniker today, Dumb Civvy. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Although we'll see what kind of input I have.
We're going to be talking about more broad topics like tyranny today and things like that. I could see how you may feel reticent about commenting on things like Russia and Ukraine and whatnot. But Putin's globetrotting is probably something that you could comment on. Tyranny, any man who loves freedom can comment on tyranny.
By all means, I will make it known. I have no military experience. I am a dumb civvy, so take my comments with a large grain of salt.
Well, we're just glad every time we see you, Hunter. You were a big fan of the show for a long time, and now you're part of the team. So glad to have you. And it's always kind of good to have some new voices from time to time. And you've been pretty good about adding value when you've been on before. Hunch the Dirty Roofer for $5 says the missus is limiting Joe's intake. Make him suffer, chat.
So because he said something out loud, Hunch is exactly the reason I know that we need to tweet pictures of people drinking White Monster at Joe.
That's funny. Lance Corporavetti for $2 said, "Who's heard the Nashville Shooters Manifesto was released?" Yeah, I saw that. I haven't really looked into it or seen any tweet threads that kind of dive into it, but
same.
I don't expect it's going to be good.
Crowder's got one. It is exactly what you'd expect. It is basically leftists on crack to the point that they're willing to shoot people over it. So everyone's surprised. Feel free to raise your hand. Oh, I noticed no hands are up. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Let's see. Happy Plague Doctor member for 12 months. Who's going to free the apartment complexes in Aurora this weekend? I thought the Hells Angels had that covered.
No, that was a meme. That was
I know that was
fake.
Funny.
But an interesting real one that has happened. Our local gangs do seem to be
unironically interested.
Unironically posted videos of them like coming together and squashing their own beef to say, "Hey, let's come fuck these Venezuelans up."
Well, so that gang is the largest gang in Venezuela, and they're saying there's about 5,000 members active in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, for long.
We'll be talking about that here.
That's I do believe some of these gang members when I believe that's gonna not last for that long.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You good?
Yeah. Sorry, chat. We right before the show, like the 15 minutes prior to going live, actually more like 20 minutes. For the internet on my laptop was absolutely driving me crazy, and I was looking at having to take the show from my cell phone, but literally at the last minute before before we went live. Everything came back. So
I saw this. I gotta say real quick, Cyrus the Elder, thank you for bringing this up. I saw this in my feed last night.
I swear to God. I don't.
Yeah.
What?
All right. Anyway, gentlemen, let's get on with the show.
Video, if you haven't watched the video about Paul, go watch the video about Paul. I don't want to lay down a bunch of commentary on it. Apparently, Scott can't hear me. I don't want to lay down a bunch of commentary about it. But,
I can't. Are you guys just not talking, or can you not hear me?
And there it is. Exactly. Thank you, Watcher. Anyway, I don't want to lay down a bunch of commentary about it, but at the same time, it is as good Guy Paul as there ever has been. Otherwise, I will let Paul speak for himself.
I can hear you, by the way.
Okay, good. But yeah, we were just saying about it, Paul. And yeah, now it's probably a good time to get into segment 1, as you were saying, Scott.
Perfection.
Chat.
Please bear with us.
Yeah,
I
We're
apologize, chat.
experiencing technical difficulties.
right.
And here's the other side of me being so busy is I got on this morning to like basically be moral support, and then realized that he actually did need co-hosts, and so I'm staying for as long as I can. But I have not read any of these stories, so why don't we discover this together while we wait for Scott?
Well, while we in the hopes of waiting for Scott in a slightly more productive fashion, random PNW guy 84. Every time that banger of an intro hits, it makes me think of the scene in Starship Troopers where the guy yells, "Where?" I think it's supposed to be, "We're going to war," and everyone cheers. So badass. And look, man. Every single time I'm on the show, even when I forget to say it, it always strikes me how freaking badass that intro is. So
No kidding.
Take the time to appreciate accordingly while Scott tries to figure out what internet is.
I actually
He's back. No, wait. His head bobbing tells me that he can hear us now.
I can hear you. Yes. Yeah, I can hear you fine. When I came back this time, it was like everything fixed. So if my internet goes bad, I'm just going to close out and reopen the window. So hopefully that'll fix it.
To finish the commentary on the intro, normally I catch the show after it's already started, like in the middle of a workout, and I'm, listening at like 1.5 times speed in order to catch up. I was shocked this morning how much I was bobbing my head to that intro. It's legit solid.
Yeah. I can't remember. Let's see. There was a comment on that actually earlier in the show, and I
read it while you were away there, buddy.
Oh no. Oh, the random PNW guy. Did you guys get that one over on Rumble?
Yeah, exactly what I was doing while you were having technical difficulties. So sorry, I'm reading your super chats for you while you're gone.
No, I appreciate it, brother. You're awesome. All right,
well, I appreciate all of you.
Let's jump right into the first odds and end here. Former aide to New York governor is charged with acting as an agent of the Chinese government. Surprise, surprise, surprise. It's like I love the Gomer Pyle meme because that's so applicable to all the stuff that we see with the Democratic Party. Former aide to New York Governor Kathy Hochul and former Governor Andrew Cuomo, wow, just both of them, was charged with acting as an agent for the Chinese government, U.S. Attorney Brian Peace announced Tuesday. Linda Sun, a former deputy chief of staff for Hochul, is it Hochul? I can't remember how you say her name. Hochul,
it is the least correct way to say it because fuck that bitch.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hochul.
No. Let's go with Hochul. Let's fucking roll.
Hochul. There we go. Yeah, Hochul. Because that's and Cuomo aide was charged with violating and conspiring to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud, alien smuggling, money laundering, according to an unsealed copy of the indictment. Her husband and co-defendant, Chris Hu, was also charged with money laundering, conspiracy to commit bank fraud, as well as misusing means of identifications, prosecutors said. And they even got their very own FBI home raid. So good news there.
Hey, it's not just January 6th defendants.
Wow.
Is Who being charged with the theft of First?
Who?
Yeah. Who's in jail? What? Who's in jail? Who's in jail? No,
So can we
go
just
ahead.
pause for a moment to give advice to the worst people on earth, which is to say, dear leftists, you're all ugly, disgusting people. If attractive Asian women are interested in you, even working for you, it's a honeypot.
Yes.
Okay, just stop.
It is exactly right. It is exactly right.
The
Well,
thing that I've
you
noticed,
know,
this
go ahead.
chick has to be like old guard levels of Chinese infiltration because she actually has an Americanized first name, as opposed to just like Xing Chin Chuan kind of shenanigans that they're
Well-
pulling nowadays. Because every single one that I've seen recently has a very Asian sounding first
Can
name.
I offer a differing view for a moment?
Okay.
From Dawn, interestingly. Dawn, I don't think they're missing it. I think they I think I just view it as a gift from the party.
Well, you know,
but in the case of like Feinstein and her driver, no, I think that was like, oh, it's convenient. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I found out now just for the very first time that they are a spy.
Yes, that is also true. Maybe it's just advice for chat. Hey, if there is an attractive Asian woman who's working for someone who is ugly and disgusting, it is because they're a spy.
So if it's a leftist, it's government subsidized puss. If it's one of us,
pretty much.
It's a honeypot.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you see the guy who was reporting the gay guy who was doing the troll reporting from the DNC and he was talking to this one girl and she said that liberal guys and Democratic guys in Washington are ugly. And that you have to date in order to get a good looking guy in Washington, you have to date a conservative. And this is some gal on the floor of the Democratic National Convention, so this was like,
maybe if you guys weren't out there just celebrating the fattest, ugliest pigs in the world, that might work out better for you.
Let's be honest, the most disgusting men in the world are these male feminists, right?
Oh yeah,
because they're all predators. All of those, they become male feminists because they want to suck up to women and be
it's
friends
an
with them.
Sexual strategy. Come on, Scott.
Oh,
I know.
You should have told me we were going here. I'd have gone and got Steve Shives clips from the days of old. They're so good in retrospect. I mean, he's still a retard, but oh man, so good.
Well, the other thing too, that the name actually makes me think that she might have been here for quite a while and maybe even grew up here. It says that all of her messaging was done on WeChat in Mandarin, but Chinese have a different viewpoint. The Han Chinese specifically have a different viewpoint of what it means to be Chinese. Like we think, oh, well, we're Americans, so we're Americans, and they're a Chinese citizen, so they're Chinese, right? But they have this idea that if you are of the kind of blood, connection with the Han, then you are still Chinese, no matter what your citizenship is or what country you have adopted or whatever. So I wonder her kind of entry point into this, if this was a bribery scheme or if she is like an actual MSS is their kind of CIA agent, in place. And I'd just be interested to see how that works out.
I don't think we're going to get to know. I mean,
I don't think so either. Well,
as Chad has rightly said, the fang bang bang action, and really, do we know anything more than it was available Chinese cooter? I mean, I don't think we do.
Yeah. All right. Peter Chase Helicopters for $2 says both governors are either complicit and in on it, or stupid and eternally irreparably useless.
No.
Well, yes, I think that's probably a little from column A and a little from column B on that one.
Oh, I think none of it's column B. Personally, I think at this stage those are.
Oh no! They're stupid. They're stupid and they're irreparably useless, but they're also CCP.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
two things can be true at once here.
That's true. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. You got me there.
All right. Let's see here. A lot of allegations of indictment are frankly perplexing, over-inflammatory. As you've heard in court today, we're looking forward to our day in court. This is the attorney. said the defendants are exercising their right to a speedy trial as soon as they can. We have a lot of confidence in Chris and in Linda, just like these two fine young kids from the suburbs. Is all they are. Just living the American dream.
If this were a different article, they'd be called Young Scholars.
Yeah. Young suburban scholars.
This is their defense attorney, right? It sounds like a defense attorney talking.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Of course,
you
you see where it says CNN in the top left. This is their defense attorney.
No, that's their defense attorney's press agency. Let's say in 2009, Sun was hired as chief of staff of Representative Grace Meng. So she goes back a ways then. So she's been in the game for a while, 15 years at least here. The administration of then Governor Andrew Cuomo then hired her in 2012, naming her Director of Asian American Affairs and Queens Representative. Sun then became Director of External Affairs for Empire State Development, which handles economic. Oh, good Lord, man! These are like those economic positions that just give her all kinds of insight and also kind of sway. Naming her as the Chief Diversity Officer, of course, shocking that the Chief Diversity Officer is also a CCP spy.
No.
Well, that's where all the struggle sessions come from. The diversity chief.
Correct.
And if you ever needed any evidence that the whole diversity initiative was just a neo-Marxist communist infiltration of corporate America and the government, look no further.
So you say that. I actually don't need any evidence because the company that I worked for in 2019 started coming out with all this diversity inclusivity crap, and I had been fresh off of a very long Jordan Peterson binge, and I got to watch it happen in real time to this company that I was working for, and then I left, and I got to tell, as useless as it was, I got to tell the HR officer as I was leaving, like, you guys are straight up racists because of what you're doing here. Like, this is just racism.
Yeah, here's the thing. I mean, people need to be more willing to do that and walk away from these. The diversity if every white male in a corporation that initiated a diversity plan were to just say, sorry, no, I'm not going to play this game, and then they tender their resignation. If it all happened on the same day, A, you would completely grind the economy to a halt. But B, every one of these companies would have changed their policy immediately.
It's true.
But the problem is that, the people that these are aimed at hurting the most, which is white males, honestly, all males to be sure, but white males specifically, we went along with it. And a lot of times we were the ones that made sure that these programs were instituted. So
Indeed.
Why?
All right.
I will forego going off on a massive digression, but at some point, I just want to grill and go to work, and life needs to be fine, needs to end. And until that ends, of course, we are going to be the people who institute these things.
There was some dumb guy, with a hat. It's kind of a weirdo, who talked about how absolutely impossible it is to get this sort of thing organized on the right for whatever reason.
Yeah, that guy's an asshole.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
I can't. I'm looking at the Rumble chat. You guys need to come on now.
Yeah, the song's called "Industrial Meltdown" by Punch Deck. It's in the video description.
Well, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the cooler. Nice one, Rowan Court. Do push-ups. All right.
Do
Anything
push-ups
else
until I'm tired.
Until I'm tired. Elevate your feet on my desk. All right, gentlemen. Anything more on the CCP spy, or our thoughts on the CCP spying on us in general?
All I have left are memes.
Yeah, well, I don't know how at this point it's a surprise. I don't know how at this point it's really anything other than, well, of course.
Yeah, it's absolutely just mind-bending how stupid all this is. All right, gents, let's move on to our next odds and ends, shall we? We were talking about the Venezuelan gang issue. Good news. I hear the Hell's Angels showed up and cleared them all out, so we don't have anything to worry about now. One of the better memes that I've seen in a while. Armed Venezuelan prison gang in Denver highlights map of U.S. sanctuary zones to avoid during migrant crisis. So, this is the kind of thing that this has shown us that Denver absolutely is a sanctuary city. They have created this problem. The governor said that it was literally not happening while it was happening. It said it was like, I can't remember the word he used. It was made up or a myth or something like this, right? But ultimately, he looked really stupid within hours of that statement. But what this just shows you is absolutely, it just highlights the problem that all these sanctuary cities have. And they're all just in various degrees, right?
So, yes. It is not a surprise that when you tell people you can come here and break the law and we will support you, that people who break the law come there and expect your support. That seems obvious and yet is a problem that we somehow keep having. I would suggest in a way that I absolutely hate doing, we now have no-go zones. For those of you who are old enough on the internet to remember when this was a big deal in Europe.
Yeah. Remember when Tim Pool was making his bones by going into the no-go zones in Sweden?
I was going to say Lauren Southern unavailable for comment.
Well, yeah, she did it too, but I think Tim actually did it first in Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I hate Lauren Southern less.
Oh, well.
As long as we're here, Tim has been going on for years about somebody coming on his show and threatening death on people and how he thought that was completely unacceptable and went on and made up. Basically, now that I know what the story is about, like what Lauren said, Tim's a pussy, and I'm utterly fucking over basically anything he's got to say at this point.
You're gonna have to forgive me.
Is this like
it was literally Lauren Southern pointing out that there is a specified and very specific punishment for treason laid out by our legal framework.
Oh, our constitution.
Oh man, Jesus.
Look, you're gonna have to forgive me here. I have been on the Tim is a serious problem for the country and almost everything he does for a really long time. So, as much as I will take that surface level description of the story, that is the tip of the spear of problems with Tim. By the way, for everybody who's like, "Oh man, we're gonna get Don on Timcast," that is never gonna happen. I'm aware of who I am.
Yeah.
All right. And like it has me on the list of like if this guy ever gets anywhere near the show, it's going to be a disaster for me. So no.
Yeah, I've also been made aware that that they are aware of me, and I know that very specific accounts are watching me, and that they stop watching me when they stop working for the show.
Yep.
So,
random PNW guy 84 for $10 says a good book about the war in Yugoslavia in the 90s has a quote in it that goes, "Yesterday's heroes are today's villains, and yesterday's villains are today's heroes."
Yep.
There's
getting away from the Tim diatribe, although it is worth the time. This is coming to a leftist hellhole near you.
Oh yeah.
Please stand by.
There's no way around it. And by the way, in the same fashion that it's going to go everywhere forever, right? You know, they're going to show up, set up enclaves, and then they're going to start reaching out from there.
Hold on a second, guys. Random PNW guy 84 for $10 more says it was in reference to how cops and military were creating instability thrift and war, and old street gangs are providing stability in the area to help keep the economy going. Getting back to the topic of these Venezuelan prison gangs, which are, arguably a bigger menace than Tim Pool in some ways. That was the joke. Anyway. Organized crime came from a lack of policing in ethnic neighborhoods in New York City, right? It's like these, Italian neighborhoods were basically not getting any protection, and they were being preyed upon by street criminals from other neighborhoods and things like that. And that's where the Black Hand kind of comes from. Is the entire original idea of the protection scheme is, hey, we're going to protect our neighborhood, and it costs money to do that. And then after a while, it becomes abusive and predatory on their own areas.
I don't know, man. The Italian mafia never showed up at my door at 5 a.m. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's true. Well, but then again, I mean, at what point does the government essentially become a glorified protection racket?
They're called the Pinkertons.
Yeah. Well, that's the FBI, right?
It is now.
Well, no, that's where the FBI came from. We're the Pinkertons, right? The original FBI agents were all brought in for the Pinkertons. All right. Let's jump back into the story here. Because I like the idea of this, knowing where these cities are, these sanctuary cities, basically tells you where not to go in the U.S. So law-abiding Americans should be made well aware of cities and counties and states that have laws, ordinances, and policies that obstruct immigration enforcement and shield illegal alien criminals from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. This is because the Biden-Harris administration has imported the third world into the first world. And with that comes elevated risks of violent crimes and chaos. So basically, we've got our own artisanal zamazamas taking over, apartment complexes in Denver suburbs. Footage of the Venezuelan prison gang, TDA members raiding the apartment building with at least one AR-style rifle pistol in the northern Denver suburb of Aurora shocked the nation last week about how quickly sanctuary cities run by far-left Democrats can spiral out of control after rolling out the red carpets for illegals. This is exactly how you get civil strife and internal conflict. And this is the kind...
Hold on a minute. Maybe I am just too old and jaded in this. Were you guys shocked? I wasn't shocked.
No.
Oh, I wasn't shocked. I don't think anybody that like us weren't shocked. Let's see what are they saying here. Go ahead and push play there.
So there are several buildings actually under the same ownership, out-of-state ownership, that have fallen to these Venezuelan gangs. I'm trying to walk it back and do the investigation as to how there's a concentration of Venezuelans in these three buildings. Somebody put them there, and somebody funded it. Whether it's federal government or not, we're trying to find out who these gangs apparently are attracted to where there's a concentration of Venezuelan migrants, and so they've in fact have kind of pushed out the property management through intimidation, and then collected the rents. We have now, or have had, it is ongoing operations with.
You got to unshare. Yeah, there you go. So I specifically remember people who were saying that Donald Trump was speaking in histrionics during one of his speeches recently, where he said, well, they're just emptying out the jails. The Venezuelan jails are all emptied out and they're being shipped to America. And they're saying that's poppycock. That's not happening. Well, it almost seems like it's exactly what happened.
This is a very old game.
I was going to say, we're so ignorant of our
the Mariana boat lift,
What? So this is every single mass immigration to the country ever. And I say that not meaning anything even recently, right? You know, the Bloody Fifth is a reference to when the Irish showed up in Fifth Street in New York, and you couldn't walk down the street in New York without the Irish beating the hell out of you, stabbing you, etc. Because it was basically just the entire criminal element of Ireland got put in one street in New York. You know, the Italians did this slightly before that. Every time that we go, oh yeah, hey, why don't we just import half of a country? What that country does is go, well, we don't want any of these people, so we're going to give the option of death or going to America. And it's been that way for 150 years.
Yeah. If you go down a little further in the story, Watcher, you can see the heat maps that they've kind of got on these tweets.
In the world of this is a very old game. Don made an excellent point. That was actually not what I was referencing. But the point I was making was it's the old game of this isn't happening. Okay, it's happening, but it's not that bad. Okay, it's happening, but it's actually good. We're glad that it's happening.
Right. It's all about changing the narrative incrementally so that it becomes okay, right?
Yep.
But if you look at this map, I mean, this is basically you've got cities, counties, regional jails, state facilities, states that are considered to be sanctuaries for these types of activities. And it won't matter who wins the election. The flood of illegals. So this is Philip Davis on X. He says the flood of illegals have a purpose in the overall plan that has been unfolding. Chaos as far and wide as possible. Massive spread across the nation. So I'll be honest with you guys. The more I think about this, the more you have to institutionalize some sort of mass deportation of anybody who can't prove that they have a reason or legal reason to be here in America. Period. I just don't know that there's any other way to solve this problem.
I mean, that's the way. And that's what people have been saying for at least the last decade, although quieter in some areas and louder in others. They don't want that. I think that's the long and the short of it.
Well, I mean, as somebody who's married to a naturalized U.S. citizen who legally migrated to the U.S., I am sympathetic to the general idea of the migrant to America, but at the same time, it's got to be done correctly. And I think the irony is that some of the most stringent people when you talk to on anti-illegal immigration action are these legal immigrants who listen, it took me a long time to come here. I did it the right way. I did everything correctly. I didn't break the law, and these people just jump to the front of the line and they're given now in California, $150,000 as long as to buy a house, as long as you don't sell the house. You don't have to pay it back until you sell that.
There was a Senate bill that hasn't passed yet, but it's on its way.
I know, but it's on its way. I mean, the fact that it's a bill shows that there is a large percentage of people within California that think that this is a great idea. It's true. We should be doing this.
Whoa. That is not what that shows. So, there is a large percentage of the California Senate that thinks this is a good idea, and that is
no, Don, you can't excuse these people who vote these people into office.
So
they have voted for this. They have voted for these people who then craft these bills, and guess what? Almost all the people that will be involved in this bill guarantee they get reelected.
Well,
that means they're co-signing all that.
I will guarantee that they get reelected. However, I will disagree with you on whether or not anybody actually voted for them. In the world of nobody wants to deal with this, long before 2020, back in, the early 2000s, there was a guy who was crusading across California that was talking about how mail-in votes in California were coming to the tune of hundreds from abandoned houses, from P.O. boxes, from things that you may recognize from recent elections in the federal style in the United States. Part of the reason that a lot of people, myself included, left California is not because, you just didn't want to fix it. It's that if 500 votes can come from a mailbox with a burnt down house behind it, and no one, there's nothing you can do about it, then what exactly can you do to fix it?
And this is just like the Act Blue donations, where you've got this old woman who's living on Social Security is donating $300,000 per year, multiple times per day,
Exactly.
in small $15 and $20 donations.
Exactly.
It's absolutely an industry around subverting the legal election process of the United States.
Indeed. And so, not to give cover to the coastline, because, burn it to the ground. A lot of those people are, in fact, voting for this. But as I have been telling people for years, once you get away from the coastline, whatever you think is conservative or right wing is probably some leftist bullshit around there. And those guys are not interested in hearing your shit.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Peter Says Helicopter Tours for $5 says, yes, but have any of you been referenced multiple times on Tim's show? Every time somebody mentions helicopters on Tim's show, he shuts it down. Send the Venezuelan gangs to MA immediately. I have a need. And then Peter Says Helicopter Tours for $5 again says, nothing would please me more than dropping the Venezuelan gangs into the rich, gun-free neighborhoods of Cambridge, etc., and the homes of unarmed politicians. I will be doing this more regularly.
My man.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. There are people who deserve exactly what they get, right? I hate to say it, though. A lot of innocent people are going to get hurt in that process.
True. To your original question there, Pinochet, yes, I have been referenced many, many times on Tim's show. He has overtly promised to get me on the show at least a handful of times. I have never once been reached out to by anybody from Tim's show. So for those of you who wonder why it is that I have the view of Tim, he will promise you, the audience, that he will do something and then overtly run away from actually doing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics that have always been involved with that guy's show. And I don't mean politics meaning right and left. I mean like that interpersonal politics that are very unclear. It's like he says one thing on the air and he seems to disprove that point very quickly, going the other way.
Indeed.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means, Scott.
Which one's that?
Politics. I think the word you're looking for is skeeviness.
No, I mean just the kind of inter-office politics. That's the way. That's the term in which I'm using it. Trust me, I have a lot of experience with that recently, and I am not a fan of it.
An officer in the United States military has experience with inter-office politics? I don't know if I believe you, sir.
You're talking about dumb civvy, because I don't know that doesn't reference anybody else on this show. All right, let's move on to our next odds and ends here. So, guys, who knew that Raytheon Technology faces a $200 million fine for exporting defense technologies to unauthorized countries, including China, Russia, and Iran? Of course they did. I want to know how they even get the information to those countries, right? Because this is literally them exporting it to these places, not somebody came and stole our files. This is Raytheon giving the information to agents of these countries. The U.S. State Department announced that the fines related to 750 different violations of the Arms Export Control Act and International Traffic of Arms Regulations, or ITAR. The violations involve the unauthorized export of classified defense articles and data by RTX employees. Are we sure this isn't occurring on the War Thunder forums?
That's an important question, actually.
Yeah, including carrying sensitive information to prescribed destinations like China and Russia. So they're literally taking this information to Russia and China.
So
physically, it sounds like.
I want to make sure that I've got this all summed up properly. So one of our premier technology.
This is the company that makes the Patriot missile.
No. I got you. Hold on. But one of our premier aerospace technology companies, the ones that we rely on to maintain a competitive edge against near peer competitors, just got astronauts trapped in space for
Yes.
over a year and is unable to even come up with a simple rocket to be able to take people to and from space, something they themselves did not 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And the other one now appears to be fully and completely infiltrated and is turning over all their defense secrets and should never be trusted with another contract so long as they exist. Gee,
Well,
that's,
maybe, but the person that we consulted to find out whether or not these people should be trusted is Kathy Hochul. So, strangely, she said yes.
Hochul or Hochul? Hochul. I just
In the
wanted to make
traditional
sure we're
fashion.
So
That's fine.
they violated ITAR. I want to know who at Raytheon's going to prison.
Yeah, right. There's
Oh,
got to
man.
be there's got to be literally people who knowingly did something wrong.
Well, it'd probably be the whole board. But funnily enough, I guess, you know.
Oh man,
who knows?
Chat, I love you, Kathy Horchata.
Yes, horchata.
That will
I
never
tell you
die
what,
now.
I loved horchata and burritos back in the like
Hold on. I
pollo
have to read
asado
these.
burrito and anyway, go ahead.
I have to read these. So the State Department announces that the fines related to the violations of the Arms Export Control Act, or the ITAR, violations involved unauthorized export of classified. The company can use settlements for this. They can use half of the fine they have to pay for remedial compliance measures. So they can just spend that internally in the company.
Yep.
Motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's let me be honest with you. Of all the things I read today, this is the one that had my blood boiling the most.
Yeah.
Philip Coughlin, member for 24 months, says, would that include the former board members who is a currently the SecDef?
Yeah, probably.
It did. So the time that this took place was from 17 to 23. So this is a relatively recent period of time that would have overlapped two different administrations.
Oh God.
The company's between August 2017 and September 2023, so last year, involving critical defense programs like the F-22 fighter. So no other country in the world uses the F-22. So why would they be taking information about the F-22 out of the country? I mean, there just is no good reason.
They did it on purpose. This is treason. They literally committed treason. This is treason.
I mean, providing aid and comfort to the enemy is
a charge of which does have a penalty that would extinguish your
ability to commit further treason.
Yes, right. It would be very detrimental to your ability to do such in the future. Let's see. Peter Chase helicopter tours for $5 says, in Massachusetts, our ballots have full addresses of all candidates. I call that transparency. I have their addresses down on a 10-digit grid in case Russia or China needs a place to drop nukes. Well, the good news is if you have it, then so does the MSS. So we can all sleep safely.
On the other hand, they're probably going to use that as places not to nuke, which is sad.
Well, people to grab and make sure you save them for the world that comes after, so they don't die in the dusty basement like they did in that movie Threads. That was such a depressing film.
Thanks for really keeping the mood high there.
Have you seen that movie?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and you can search for it and watch the entire thing on YouTube. It is the most depressing late 70s, early 80s era post-apocalyptic movie you will ever see.
Yeah,
It was
chat,
British-
have you been depressed today? Have you considered going to YouTube and engaging in a little bit of depression? You too can hate everything in the world and be sad and crying.
No. You'll appreciate the crap that we have when you look and see what the kind of the nightmare of the late 70s was to the British populace. So. It makes Keir Starmer's,
Well, the question
utopia.
if it's about the British, the question is how many teeth are in the movie?
As the apocalypse goes on, less and less over time.
Are we sure that's apocalypse related?
Yeah, I think that's just the NHS.
PETA saves helicopter tours for $5. Speaking of apocalypse, in Fallout 4, where the nuke hits Sudbury, MA, quiet town, hometown of Raytheon Guidance, knowing MA just gave Peter Daszak safe harbor and the BU the okay to gain a function, no doubt leaks. Is that true? Is BU now doing gain of function?
Probably.
I
mean,
that
just
should
take
be
it at face
outlawed.
value.
I honestly think that should be outlawed.
Yes, it should. I'll admit I had struggled to actually keep track through that super chat.
Yeah. I don't know that one either. So,
Yeah.
All right. Now is when normally we would turn to Joe to talk about tactical-wisdom.com. So I will just point you in the direction of his website and say, check it out. If you're not buying his books, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like literally, I bet 50% of this audience have at least one of his books. So it's good stuff. Round out your library because you have less and less time every day to become prepared. And if you can't become a knowledgeable subject matter expert, you need to have references. And Joe's is about as kind of a concise reference on important skills that you would need in a world without law, as I can think of. So give that a thought. And if you still have some stuff that you need to fill out on his books, now's a good time to do it. Also, I want to just kind of pimp Don's wife's Give and Go to support Don. Don't you just love the legal fiction there?
Don't use the word fiction. It is important that this line is defined.
This is my cynicism, So looking. This audience has been very supportive. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and just share my screen here real quick. Since we don't get video, we might as well have a high, a low resolution image of you up on the screen. Don the Pleb, legal fees. See, Alicia, it says right there. There's no fiction. It's right there.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
And she will get the money, and then she will divorce you, and then run off to,
Is that the real long game? I will have to talk to her about this.
See, you're gonna say that, and at some point you're gonna meet this woman, and she's gonna like fucking stab you.
Oh boy! I just gave the initial idea. Hunter, grabs the ball and takes it down the field. I just want to say, one day ago, $50 anonymous user. I mean, so a lot of really kind people are helping out here. You got a $500 gift here. I
don't have words to accurately describe how awesome you guys are, which is for those of you, that top comment there is, hey, thanks for, lots of years of doing what you've done. For those of you who have known me for a long time, being short on things to say is not generally my style. And certainly not having words to describe situations, though I will grant I'm usually describing something terrible, and that that's where all my experience is. But no, you guys have been incredibly awesome. This audience, any number of other audiences, this weekend, I will be dropping in with somebody that I have never met before, but heard about this and is going to be running a fundraiser stream in relation to this Give, Send, Go. If you are following me on, saying there's the wife for you.
Stabbing will continue until the faith in me improves. I have total faith in you. What are you talking about?
But
just by the way, she says I have the login. It's mine. Please don't. I know we were joking, of course. If I thought that there was anything not up and up about this, I wouldn't promote it like we've been doing on the show. So
He just means that you're married.
I know. It's just it's
Well,
always anyway. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Don.
Oh, don't worry about it. So by all means, if you're following me on various social medias and things, I will send out links to, hey, I will be over here talking about raising money and all those other kinds of things. And because I have been banned off everywhere 8 million times, my branding sucks. So you have to find me on X with @Helo Procurement as opposed to Don Workman or Don the Pleb or any of those other things. So sorry about that, but I was doing this during the years where everybody was getting banned off everything, and I was not immune.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's just one of those kind of, dealing with living in social media in the Trump era, right? I mean, it was literally they were playing whack-a-mole with all the accounts that were worth listening to.
Yeah, it was very much the case.
All right. Let me close that out. Watcher, you want to share the next story here? It's so this is something we've been kind of following here on the program. We've been talking about incrementally. So I haven't heard from Costa in a while, so we may be seeing how this is affecting people. Brazil's $9,000 fine for accessing X puts wall of censorship between citizen and unregulated information. Brazil has not just banned X, formerly Twitter, from the entire country, but citizens will now be fined $9,000 a day, more than the average salary in the country, for using VPNs to access the platform. I wonder how you enforce this. I bet you can, but I'm curious how they do. I don't know. Was somebody sighing there to talk?
So, I mean, there's ways to enforce this, but the easiest way is that the shithead leftists on X are overtly reporting, hey, this account has posted since the ban.
Yeah.
In that sense, they're just going to crowdfund the intel. So look, chances are good if you are literally nobody who is only reading X, then you'll probably be fine. But if you are an account that has something to say, if you have an audience and you so much as say, hey, we're still okay, stand by for your $9,000 fine.
Yeah. Well, and if you're communicating in DMs and things like that, you're probably fine as well, because that's fairly private. But I wouldn't DM somebody that you don't have absolute trust in.
Yeah.
All right. So X is the main source of news for Brazilians who will now be left with government-approved sources or face financial ruin in seeking unfair information. The Guardian is reporting that confiscatory fines. That's kind of a hard. I know. Confiscatory fines. I think that's right. Are part of the it's just one of those kind of words you don't see very often. Are part of a comprehensive crackdown on efforts to get news through X, including ordering all Apple stores to remove X from the new phones. The move puts Brazil with China in the effort to create a wall of censorship between citizens and unregulated. I'll be honest with you. This was not on my bingo card.
Really?
At the beginning of the year, Brazil going as hard in the paint on freedom of speech and this isn't freedom of speech. This is freedom of news, right? Of information, right? Of like being able to just read things that are unfiltered. This is pretty, like I said, hard in the paint for a country that had the last president was pretty damn based.
Well, I mean, that's That's why. I mean,
But, yeah,
look
that's
at
exactly why.
look at us in the current moment and what we are doing because the last president was even vaguely based. I mean, that somebody not too long after Trump got elected posted something to X, and this is exactly why you can't have this. That was everything in our country has been so fake for so long that we got one insider in for something like 6 months, and we have cheap gas, cheap groceries, and an explosive economy, right? And you just can't point things like that out in totalitarian regimes.
Well, the irony is they've tried to do it all on the DL here in America, right? It's kind of like what Zuckerman or Zuckerberg or whatever has recently come out saying, where he said, yeah, the Biden-Harris administration absolutely pressured us to remove information about COVID during the COVID times, right?
Yeah.
And they're probably continuing to ask them to remove information about various topics.
Oh, shoot. Gents, we're being raided.
Yeah, boy.
Oh.
Thank you, Meme Copium. We appreciate
Thank you very much,
Meme Copium. Yeah, absolutely. It's been too long since we've had Meme Copium on the show. That was
correct.
It's been over a year now. Appreciate you, brother. Sending your folks over here. We will treat them gently and with respect.
I will not, but Scott probably will.
I just mean I got to go get more lube. I'll be right back.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
There we go.
Anyway,
I want this to be uncomfortable for us.
Well, I mean, this is the kind of freedom of speech you come looking for on X. This is the kind of forget hard hitting news. It's the memes that everybody really wants.
The backdoor lube jokes. That's what I'm here for.
Well, it's an infantry thing. What can I say? So this. However, it is Brazil that foreshadows the brave new world of censorship where entire nations will block access to sites committed to free speech values or unfettered news. Guys, who's the next country you don't expect to do this? I have a specific thought, but I'm interested to see what you guys think.
Who do I not expect to do this?
So who do you expect to be the next big country, like Western style, or kind of, we're freedom loving, but you would be more than happy to limit your speech?
Us.
No, we're already doing it, but
yeah.
But there's reasons why it won't be us.
Well, it's.
I mean, Kanakistan is high up on the list.
Yeah,
I mean, if Elon sees a nice, good video of Justin Trudeau and he gets pissy at Trudeau, I mean, it's happening.
Well, I mean, you already can't have an unacceptable opinion and a bank account in Canada.
Yeah,
it's one or the other.
Or a Bitcoin wallet, right? Heaven forbid your phone you get caught with a Bitcoin wallet. Well, I'm specifically thinking of the UK. I could absolutely see the UK going this route with, kind of especially anti-immigration speech. Some of these other kind of very unpopular.
I don't think the UK will, because they are using it for exactly what you're talking about, right? If you are willing to post on the internet like immigration bad for any reason whatsoever, they are using that as a source list to arrest people. So while they'll get there eventually, I think we're in for at least a few years of them just arresting people for posting obvious statements.
But that's where the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the TikToks come in, because the appearance of freedom, compliant platforms are really what helps with that type of, a platform like X does not help as much. So especially your ability to create anonymous accounts and all that kind of stuff. Then so like Harry Hamster 17 is saying all this stuff about us, and he claims to live in Leeds, right? Okay, so this just tells us somebody lives in, but he's accessing with a VPN. You know what I mean? So it's.
Okay. So anonymity doesn't exist, and the things that you have to do to get close to having it are not things that people in general are doing.
Yeah,
correct.
Well, but there are people in our circles actually do though.
No. No,
I
no.
doubt it.
Well, the ones that truly want to be anonymous do.
Well, no, we Scott, I will tell you right now that I do know some people who go to these lengths. You probably don't know anybody who goes to these lengths. Have you ever booted up
Well,
Tor?
I know a couple people who that I don't even interact with publicly on the internet. So, and one of the reasons why they won't interact with me publicly on the internet is because I am out, right? I am unmasked, to the public. So, I mean, if you're curious what my real name is, it's right here.
Yeah. But yeah, there's if you really seriously do want to, and even that's not anonymous because they've proven that Tor has been broken, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
But-
So
Tor was broken. What, about 10 years ago?
Oh, longer than that.
Correct.
So to give you, I mean, go read about the Silk Road. All right. That's how much that anonymity doesn't exist, right? Like minor human imperfection breaks anonymity. And as long as that is the standard, then you are not anonymous. It is only purely the fact that people are not looking for you that gives you any anonymity.
It's all various levels of paper shield.
Yeah. That idiot Peterson, and I know that my general dislike of him is not usually taken very well, but on this subject, occasionally I get some traction. The problem is anonymous accounts. Look, bro, there are things you could do right now to de-anonymize accounts that aren't even actually particularly difficult. So much so that there are text reader applications that will go out and search the entire internet to find out whether or not an anonymous account has posted under their own name ever. Okay. You could do this. You don't want to do this. But being as these things exist, the likelihood that you could stay anonymous and say anything is basically zero.
I just wanted to share this meme real quick. I think this is absolutely appropriate, and you should all.
Do think, weirdly, I do think in the not super distant future, it would not be very difficult to make. I think it could be possible. What you would need is an AI that essentially lives on your computer, and all of your posts go through a filter of the AI, which goes, does this violate privacy? And then does not allow you to post anything which would violate your own privacy laws. You would very quickly hate that and uninstall it.
Yes.
No. Depending on whether or not you absolutely value your 100% anonymity, it's the ultimate trade-off, right? Yeah, it censors everything.
I agree, but what I'm saying is that most people have self-evidently made their own choices at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, Philip Coggins for $4.99 says it's easy to break them when they are Alphabet Agency created and captured. See Pavel Durov. Yeah, so there's a reason why he fled. He fled Russia.
I'll be honest, as badass as I've always thought it. Well, no, hold on. Let's get through the member chat.
Yeah. All the marbles member for 13 months. We just had everyone's social security number leaked from a background check company. Yeah, I saw that. Unbelievable. The only thing that is private, 5 miles away from technology. Yeah,
indeed. I mean, the things that you would need to do to have an internet connection and be anonymous are absurd.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Although,
yes,
no, he's very much right. But I very recently I've wondered if Starlink does provide some extra opportunities for that, and I think that kind of brings me nicely into what I wanted to comment about this. This is all ultimately about targeting Musk, and as badass as the statement was, I knew that the man was probably in a lot of trouble. When asked what he would do when a country tried to ban Starlink and ban people from being able to speak, said, what are dictators going to do when they decide that Twitter's banned from your country and then you just beam it in through Starlink? And he goes, shake your fist angrily at the sky. He was correct, but I think he was missing the part which was hire hit teams to take him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can only have so many former Secret Service agents and Blackwater guys or whatever to be your security. If somebody really wants to kill a guy like Elon, anybody can be got.
Yeah.
And to that extent, I mean, this is where, if a country was smart, they would view a guy like Elon as a national security asset, essentially, and then protect him as such. Unfortunately, then that starts to infringe upon him. But it's an interesting.
Well, speaking of infringe upon him, that is exactly what Robert Reich is calling to do, apparently.
Yeah, so this is very
Excuse me,
interesting.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
go ahead.
His name is clearly Reich.
Right? Yeah, exactly right. I was going to make that joke too, but
Mein Führer. I was I need to rewatch the How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
yeah. Robert Reich, who has tried to sell citizens on the perfectly Orwellian view that more freedom equals tyranny when it comes to freedom of expression, has demanded that former President Donald Trump be banned from all ballots as a traitor. He wrote a column declaring Elon Musk out of control in his refusal to censor citizens and appeared to call for his arrest. Reich has long been a prominent voice in the anti-free speech movement. He's always been one of these guys who's absolutely been kind of a mouthpiece for the globalist, elitist, oligarch, WEF kind of, that kind of ilk. Reich called Musk's purchase of Twitter with a pledge to reduce censorship to be a dangerous nonsense. Notably, Reich's friend Hillary Clinton was one of the first to call for a crackdown on Musk after his purchase of Twitter.
Weird.
Clinton and other Democratic figures turned to Europe and called upon them to use the Digital Services Act to force censorship against Americans. Reich has always shown a chillingly fluidity in how free speech is protected and argued that public interest should be able to trump the right of any citizen that in espousing views that he believes are dangerous. The only people whose freedom of speech might need to be, maybe curtailed would be those who call for the curtailment of free speech. So does that mean I would then lose my
Oh yeah, that's one of those.
circular arguments? Goes down
I
to the spiral.
my father-in-law, before he passed, God rest him, had a hilarious little joke that he'd love to tell that would really shock people, and I'm concerned that I probably can't tell it on YouTube, unfortunately. So one of these days,
We'll see you all on Rumble.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the teaser, Watcher.
I was about to say it, and then my internal censor went, warning, the little red box is still on.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like Hillary Clinton, Reich is calling on foreign governments and censors to silence American citizens, including Musk. Regulators around the world should threaten Musk with arrest if he doesn't stop disseminating lies and hate on X. Okay. Dave, for £2, Tor wasn't broken to catch Ulbricht.
Yeah, he's pointing out that no, to be clear, Dave, when he said if you want to know how easy it is to break anonymization, check out Ross Ulbricht. He wasn't talking about Tor being broken for that. He was talking about the fact that they didn't even need to break Tor for that, even though Tor was broken. All they had to do was just observe minor personality characteristics between his postings.
Yeah, it's social engineering, essentially, is the way that they can kind of determine,
So while the tech is broken in ways that allow them to, if they do go through the effort, intercept and change that traffic, that they don't even have to go that far.
Yeah,
which is kind of what we're saying.
The quantity of methods to break anonymity is massive, friend of mine, I think friend of the show is fair to say, Anti-Pattern has a whole lot of threads about this, and that everybody's, panacea for, privacy or anonymity is ridiculous. And it is, not to besmirch the name of Eric Prince, as it were, but, privacy phones are silly. if you connect to somebody else's network, and by nature of a cell phone, you connect to somebody else's network, then there's only so much privacy you can ever have. And the suggestion that like it's going to anonymize you or in any way, keep you safe from people tracking you is ridiculous, right? And I know some people are going to say, well, but there's no GPS or whatever. Well, look, if you connect to multiple towers of a network, you can be triangulated.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
right.
Let me back this up. I've got a walkie-talkie in my hand. If I press this button, if there are 3 antennas around me, they can figure out exactly where I was when I pressed that button.
Right.
Your phone is a radio.
W. Daisy Williams, Daisy Girl Williams says she's a member for 9 months. Says welcome to Mean Copium Radiers. Please like and sub. Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you guys coming. What's the use of coming if you don't hit the like button and subscribe to the channel? This YouTube is not a fan of our channel and has made that very clear. We've been steadily throttled over time. Maybe our content has just sucked. I don't know. Maybe we just, who knows? So, but that's just as likely an outcome as probably YouTube deciding they don't like our content. So,
no, it is not. Okay, those are not of equal likelihood.
That's true. I'm trying not to be too full of myself. But
before we hit the next paid comment, I do have one from the cheap seats that I'd like to address because it's brilliant. They do have little pouches in the cheeks.
That's right. That's right.
This is the way. All right. If you got carrier pigeons, carrier hamsters, right? You can have some anonymous communication. Gab will be the next target. My God. Okay, Gab has been the target for the past 10 years.
Yeah,
since he put it up.
Did you all see that he was in France when they grabbed Pavel?
Uh-oh.
No, he didn't say anything about it until he was already out of the country on a boat in international waters headed back to the U.S. or on a plane in international airspace headed back to the U.S.
Look,
but yeah,
a little
flat
nuts,
out,
but
he was in France when it happened.
Oh man! So for those that don't know, in the world of Gab will be next. Gab, the reason Gab Pay exists is because Gab was banned from the payment processors. The reason that Gab Cloud exists is because Gab was banned from all cloud services. The reason that Torba has physical servers on his own property is because he was banned from all hosting services everywhere. I mean, in the world of Gab will be next, they've been going after Gab basically since it was created in ways that if you are not familiar with how they go after people, seem ridiculous. Now, that said, I tried to tell Torba once upon a time, hey, man, stop depending on Stripe because this is super bad. And in short, he told me that I was an idiot and that it's a payment processor and there's not a lot of options. And I said, I don't care. Find another one. And in a sense, he told me I was a crazy conspiracy theorist weirdo. And about a month later, they banned Gab from all the payment processors. Notably, Torva did not come by and give me an apology. But
well, now hold on a minute. Hold on a second, Watcher. Dunn, that sounds like a totally unique story that has only happened in that one instance where you warned someone of something, and they're like, "Fuck you," and then the thing happened. I can't imagine that ever happening at any other point, right?
Yeah, no other point has that ever happened.
So hold on a second. I got a good little interaction going on here. Rowan Court for $2 says cheap seats ? Son of a bitch. And then that's followed up, by the way. Cannon Hodep says salute in there, so thank you. And then Squishy Hunter for $5 says Rowan, we pay sub $10 sub Rumble rants. We are the definition of cheap seats. That's fair. But, let's be honest. If you pay money on Rumble, you automatically are getting more value from money because, Rumble does not take, half as much as YouTube does. So,
dear entire audience and Squishy, I'm not breaking your balls here, but I am also breaking your balls here. The way to send that post is for $9.99.
$9.99. That's right. Kimmy Joe for $5 says Germany is trying to arrest a man for calling a politician fat and demanded Gab to hand over his personal information. Gab told them to get
Yeah.
Ben. Well, I mean, that's
look, here's the deal. I like Gab. I like Torba. I think Torba's got some personal failings. Let he who hath no sin cast that first stone, because certainly isn't me. I'm a fat retard. Which many of you have described Torba as, right? But here's the deal. I just like as great as it's been for him to have set up Gab and to set up this alternate economy, and I love it. I just wish that like every time I logged into Gab, my entire feed was not just an unrelenting stream of the absolute most vile shit I could possibly imagine.
Good luck there. I mean, it's welcome to Rumble's problem with, we're not trying to be the right-wing political platform. Like, well, yeah, but whether you guys like it or not, dear alternative tech everywhere, the first people to come and find you are going to be the people who have been banned off everything. And so if you're, 1488 posting at the cyclic rate, then you are going to get banned from everywhere except Gab, who doesn't care. And so that is what will be there.
Yeah. See, when I got my first Twitter ban years and years and years ago, I did try to stick it out in Gab for like a whole year. I really, really tried to make it work. And,
well, talking about censorship and platforms and she just mentioned Kimmy, I assume is a she, but she just mentioned Germany, right? Maybe Germany is the next country that's going to get tyrannical on internet censorship. And the reason why will be because of exactly what I'm getting ready to share right here. Hold on a second. Let me open this up.
I think our problem here is we're just unaware that they have been for the past decade.
Well, right, but there is a reason why they now have a reason to start getting tyrannical.
Didn't they
now
literally just arrest a whole tent full of people because they were listening to that Rausch song?
So check this out here. So new TikTok trend in Germany is of attractive women showing their support for AfD. This is what's going to get people like really up in arms when it comes to the censorious liberals. Give a German right wing, and not even that right wing, in a lot of, I mean, just essentially, basically, basic American conservative, not even as to the right as some of the conservative ideas here. Support for AfD, which is Alternative for Deutschland, by filming themselves dancing to a remix of Gigi D'Agostino's 1999 song "Blah Blah Blah" with the lyrics changed to AfD Deutschland Party AfD. Incredible things are happening in Germany, and this is what's going to get them. Let's listen to this. I bet this is some sort of dance hell piece. Yeah, it's exactly what I expected.
Now we're banned in Germany.
But National Socialism's never been looked so good, though. I mean, AfD is are not Nazis. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're listening to the mainstream press, they are. But then again, so are you. Right. So am I. So is literally everybody. So maybe.
And by to get gutted.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I mean, this tyranny is a thing, and it's spreading specifically in the West. And then so the last one, my vote for was the UK and Keir Starmer. Now this is a earlier story. This is from last year, but. So I wanted to just illustrate how far back this goes. This is not just like something that's happened recently, right? So this is last year, and this was a commentary. So it's funny how like last year's opinion is this year's fact, right? Britain is now an elite dictatorship where majority opinions are crushed.
Now?
Well, this is last year,
Hold
but
on.
it is
Wait,
literally that
wait,
now,
yeah,
right?
but wait a minute. Hold on. Wait. Yeah, like I get what they're saying. I get it, Britons. You didn't see the problem for a very long time because you happened to be living under somebody that you found tolerable, but you are literally in a fucking monarchy.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. The monarchy in
bros
Britain,
inconsolable.
the monarchy was doing just fine for people who wanted to say things that were offensive back in the 70s, but now that they want to say things that are inoffensive, essentially,
Fine, but like you live in a monarchy, so like yeah, you're in an elite dictatorship. It's literally definitional.
But it's not real monarchy, bro.
Well,
And
I mean,
I'm kidding. Talk to the monarchists.
Let's be honest though. This is not your parents' monarchy, right? I mean, this is about as milk toast as monarchies get in the world, and this is not Saudi Arabia by any means, right?
So what you're saying is it's not real monarchy, and as Chad is rightly
not a
pointing
very
out,
good one.
Wait, has real monarchy
has
ever been tried?
It was a real monarchy, but they kind of gave up the ghost. I think King George back in King George III was probably where the high watermark of it's been downhill ever since that guy. He was like half a retard, right? So I mean,
and that was the good half.
Can we have monarchy? No, we have monarchy at home.
Oh boy. But anyway, so the UK has absolutely proven it's like they wanted to remind people, hey, by the way, don't get carried away with the freedoms that we've given you, right? We're kind of snapping you back into line. The problem is they're doing it in a way that's absolutely it's like they've embraced the tyrannical part of monarchy, but they've completely cast out all the cultural norms and goodness that went along with that British monarchy, right? I mean, so it's like we don't want to be British, but we still want to be a dictatorial oligarchical monarchy. We just want to import the Wahhabists to run it for us.
Look, first of all, since I have an inordinately large amount of contact with any number of monarchist British things, one, if you're going to be the right wing of Britain and have spent a literal year running around screaming about based Taliban, then I have no sympathy for you when the base Taliban show up in your country and do base Taliban things, and then you complain to me that you don't like it.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean,
so I'd like to take this in a weird direction. We were talking earlier, and I don't remember what happened, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. We were talking about what's going to happen in Britain with all this happening, and a lot of people said, "Oh, it's just going to slow simmer for years," and I wanted to interject that I don't think that's true. Specifically because of a little hot spot known as Northern Ireland, where things have gone kinetic already, and are escalating at a very rapid pace. And you're talking about people that traditionally have been murdering each other in the streets for a long time, coming together to start carrying out night violence against immigrant communities.
Indeed.
That will spread.
My implication, or my thoughts there, is that the implications will be them going after Telegram long before they go after X. Marginally because Telegram is the usual place for that kind of organization, and marginally because it's harder to generate a lead list out of Telegram than it is X in every imaginable way.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is it's harder for the average person even just to get on the Telegram.
Yeah. There's a
and
barrier.
You can't even use Telegram unless you're on what is it, a mobile phone or something.
No,
like
you
that,
can
right?
use there's a PC download you can use, but
Indeed.
it's not the slickest interface. We'll just leave it at that.
However, for those of you who keep telling me to get on Telegram, I would, but Telegram thinks that my phone number has an account and that I cannot activate
that's
another
concerning.
account. Right now, that may or may not be true from years gone past of me having a Telegram account. However, there's no way to recover an account, as far as I can tell, and there is no way to get it to generate a new account and delete the old one. So, dear Telegram, I would love to use your service for any number of reasons at this point, but I can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you could create a new account, but then that's starting from zero.
No, I can't. It won't let me create a new account because it wants a phone number, and it says this phone number already has an account.
I
So
got you.
we sent the recovery information to your phone, but like, it's the phone that I'm trying to set up an account on, and it's not coming to me.
That makes me think there's a man in the middle.
Yeah.
Talk about that later.
Which, chat is rightly pointing out here. The feds created a Telegram account for you. That's probably true.
All right. Let's move on, gentlemen. Any
fight
fight
before we move on? Is it maybe possible that that the monarchy is importing people from countries that have strong monarchist values, even if they're not Christian values? I'm just saying, it'd be an interesting play to get rid of all these Republicans, right?
Well,
I mean, I don't mean Republican in the American sense. I mean Republican in the British sense.
That is quite the take there, Watcher.
There aren't any Republicans in the British Senate. It's like Carl Benjamin is about as close as you get to Republican.
No. Republican in the British sense means people who want there to be a prime minister and the House of Lords and all that kind of stuff instead of just the king saying what he wants to say.
How's that different?
Most of the people there want to keep the current system.
Be quiet.
Oh,
Stormy has $20 and she's telling you to shut up with it. I have to work on Friday, but I want to wish everybody a great rest of their week. Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe, and check out the links in the description to join us on locals, etc. CSC, love to all. Thank you very much. Sorry. Hey, by the way, I do have a locals announcement. So I am taking leave or vacation. Home vacation for the next 2 weeks, starting next week or whatever. So that'll be for the next 2 weeks after that. So I will be catching up on a lot of stuff like locals content. As far as I have 3 different articles that I've already started that I want to write. So those will be going to locals in the next 2 weeks. And some other stuff. Watcher and I have some projects that we have long-term commitments. So as soon as he's done with his parking business, his parking empire, we will be working on those as well in the next 2 weeks. So let's see. People generally support the monarchy in the UK. It seems to be that way. I mean, there's I know that like individual members of the monarchy are not popular from time to time, but the overall support for the system seems to be pretty high, and that makes sense. The problem is I feel like the people in power, specifically the neo-Marxists that have ensconced themselves within the monarchy and within the system, the parliamentary system that you guys have there, have decided they want to replace regular Aboriginal, people of Britain, of the British Isles.
So the problem with saying that people generally support the monarchy is because they actually divorce the monarchy from the parliamentary system. And so when they say they support the monarchy, they support the figurehead that has basically done nothing for the last century.
Right. Which is what I mean when I say that they're mostly Republicans. They mostly support leaving the political power in the hands of the
but they don't call that. Nobody in the United Kingdom calls that republicanism. Republicanism is what they talk about when they talk about our government.
And no one calls liberals classical liberals either.
Yeah, that was what it was called back during the Civil War when they were instituting the
right.
hey, monarchy doesn't have a
But
say anymore.
that was all before the United States, even existed. So that's a
Yes.
historical thing, not a contemporary,
Correct.
kind of thing.
But it's
All
also
right.
accurate.
Well, I mean, that's where the word pedantic comes into use. All right, Jim tells you for $5. This is Jim Satala, a longtime listener. Appreciate you, Jim. Future conflict. I can neither confirm nor deny that the Tor browser was built in a joint operation with the United States Navy and the NSA. I can neither confirm nor deny that almost every application that connects two computers together in the United States since the beginning of time, and the and Babbage's kind of computational machine in the 1890s has been funded in some part by the United States military industrial complex. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
The differential machine, that's what it is. Did you guys ever read that book? I think it was it William Gibson that wrote that? I think it was William Gibson, the differential machine or something like that, where basically they invented the first working computer basically in the iron or the industrial age back in the 1800s. No, nobody read that book.
I have not, but I'm sorry to do this now, but I think now is about my time to bow out. I need to go.
See, this is what I had. This is what happens when you call Watcher pedantic. He then gets.
I gotta go.
No.
I'm leaving.
No, it's
all right. Watcher.
We're approaching the top of the hour, and that's when I got to go run to go pick up some employees from their house because they don't have a ride today.
We appreciate your time, Watcher. Any final thoughts for the folks as you run away in fear?
Yeah, with the increase in we'll just call it secular violence, shall we? In the United States, but factional violence in the United States, it has never been more true that you must stay strapped or get clapped. And with that, I'll bow out.
You heard it here. Thank you so much, Watcher, and we'll see you hopefully on Friday.
True words were spoken.
And in that vein, as I am not legally permitted to stay strapped, if you find me on the news shot in the near future, don't be surprised.
Come on now, that's not what you'd call a hopeful outlook. We gotta.
I didn't say dead, just shot.
That's true. All right, let's move on to our next topic here about Russia, because let's be honest, Russia don't care. They just do what Putin does what he wants. He invades countries. He flouts the International Criminal Court because why? Because international law is a fiction, right? The only thing that's true is that regional hegemons are able to basically oppress their neighbors into doing what they want, right? This is the reason why Mongolia doesn't, they roll out the red carpet for Putin instead of, as signatories of the ICC, trying to arrest this guy. And oh, by the way, newsflash, he just arrived in Malaysia too, I believe. And Malaysia has rolled out the red carpet. So, this is the strength of the international community and the and international law. It is a fiction. It only exists if the two people talking about it think it exists as well. But then it only exists between those two people. So let's look into what Mr. Putin is doing here. Let me delete some tabs here and make this a little easier to do. There we go. I love how Putin signs things like pipelines and things like that. So much for sanctions. So this, I kind of got these out of order, but this is a good place to start. So sanctions are another part of international kind of pressure that countries will do. This is not the international community doing it per se. It's usually America or one of the other larger countries then kind of rallying support because sanctions are such a kind of a useless tool. It's easy for countries to kind of do. and ultimately is meaningless, because if it's a country like Russia that has something that everybody wants, which is natural gas and whatnot, then people just kind of say, oh, yeah, sanction system. Come on, bring it in. Doesn't matter. Bring it to the back door. We don't care. We're a price cap. Oh, well, we're going to give you a $2 discount, and then just bring it in.
Yeah.
From April to June, the European Union bought more than 12.7 billion cubic meters from Russia of natural gas, and 12.3 billion cubic meters from the United States. Oh, it's almost like they got more than us.
Well, welcome to the problem that really promotes this, right? We're going to strangle natural gas production, tell the Europeans, like, hey, don't worry about it, we got you. And then we don't have the natural gas to give them. So you can whine about sanctions all you want, but like, hey, we're all going to freeze to death, or we're buying Russian natural gas.
Right. Exactly right. So Director of Russian Department of Economic Cooperation and Foreign Ministry says Russia now supplies 50% of the total volume of natural gas imported by the European Union. This is despite the EU's REP Power EU instituted back in May 2022 to shift away from Russia and cut it off from its flow of energy profits. Excuse me. He in particular noted the fact that France and 4.4 billion cubic meters of liquid natural gas in the first quarter of 2024, more than doubling that of the 2 billion imported in 2023. Norway is still in first place, having supplied the EU with 23.9 billion cubic meters in Q2. Prior to its invasion of Ukraine, Russia held the top spot. The German government maintains it no longer imports any gas from Moscow. However, many member states clearly do. This is kind of funny, right? This is all performative. It's like, hey, Denmark and the Netherlands and Hungary and Poland, you guys up your Russian intake so that we can then only intake from the U.S. and Norway.
Yeah. That is exactly it, right? Like, look, we're doing the right thing. Look, if in the event that that wasn't going on, one, the governments of Europe love things like rationing, so they would be rationing, and there's no two ways about that. Instead of finding any other way to do this, their method would be that we, the government, are in control of this, so you can only have so much. And if the day ever comes where they get serious about not taking Russian natural gas, that is what is coming for you, Europe. Understand that. That's not a light suggestion. That is what will happen. And by the way, if the Russians ever go, you know what, I think we're just done with your games and stop importing natural gas, that is still what's coming to you.
Yeah. Let's see. In the face of renewed demands to end Russian imports and defund Putin's war chest, the energy policy spokesperson, I love the fact that by buying Russian natural gas, they're literally giving them the money they need to then in turn fight Ukraine.
Yeah,
the country that they are also supplying with weapons. So it's kind of like my money, but also my money, right? You know, that meme. In the face of renewed demands to end Russian imports and defund Putin's war chest, the energy policy spokesperson for the Free Democratic Party suggested EU pay a fixed amount of aid and arms supplied to Ukraine for every cubic meter of imported Russian gas. See, that is exactly, speaking of pedantic, that is the pedantic, rationalism that you expect out of Europeans. It absolutely shows you the reason why they are essentially trying to legislate themselves into oblivion.
And they will.
And they will. That's exactly right. I mean, Europe is absolutely their own worst enemy. They've become a complete non-entity in any of the emerging technologies in the world. They kind of, each European country has like this one company that does kind of good in its industry, but it has no leaders, right? There are, the leaders in space, the leaders in AI, the leaders in all these kind of, chip development, all this kind of stuff. The high 21st century high-end fields, none of that comes from Europe.
Now, chat, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Never say that to a European, because they will immediately become angry and start blaming America for all their problems.
Well, right. They'll talk about how violent America is. I'll be like, whatever.
School shootings.
Look, that's not how it's going to go. it's going to go right along the lines of, but the problem is American hegemony, and if it weren't for you, then we wouldn't have these problems at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And having had, let's say, a couple of those conversations, I mean, that is exactly how, like, hey, guys, have you considered doing anything to fix your own problems? Well, the problem's America because you guys told us to. Like, well,
Very well.
look, man, that's not even going over all that well here in America. So, and I know, you will immediately have pictures of San Francisco posted to you because apparently the entire country is San Francisco.
Well, even worse is Philly, right?
Then Frisco. I don't know about all that. Whew, that's
a tough one, man. It's
tell me you haven't driven through San Francisco recently without telling me you haven't driven through San Francisco.
Well, tell me you haven't gone. Have you seen the Philly? I mean, it's just as bad. It's kind of like, what's the difference, right? One is supposed to be nice.
Do you know what?
And the other
let me
define.
Let me define the difference for you immediately. San Francisco developed a poop app, and while that has been exported to Philly later, it was a requirement of San Francisco.
That's true. Well, but the thing is that, and this is true, right? San Francisco just 10 years ago was a beautiful city, right? And it was an absolute pleasure to go to.
You know how I know you're getting old? Because that is much more like 20 years ago now.
The last time I was there would have been about 10 years ago. I mean, so maybe 11 years ago. And I spent a lot more time in the kind of Palo Alto area and all that kind of stuff. So,
see that's why you can't.
Well,
Palo Alto is not Frisco.
I got it, but we also went to San Francisco, so we were around the like the Ghirardelli building and all that. We watched the fireworks and on the wharf and all that stuff. So it was a good time. We were a bunch of soldiers and we were on basically the 50 Cent tour. We were getting some good VIP treatment actually, because that was in the middle of the war, right? And so it was we were cool back then.
Oh, for the days.
Even in the San Francisco Bay Area. All right. Sorry, not sorry, says Mongolia. This is really the story that I was kind of talking to there in the beginning about the international community being flouted. Sorry, not sorry, says Mongolia after failure to arrest Putin. Energy dependence puts Mongolia sandwiched between China and Russia at a tough spot. Yeah. If you're a landlocked country sandwiched between China and Russia, you will absolutely be on your knees blowing whatever side is basically pressuring you that week, right? And let's be honest, China absolutely has its eyes on a slow annexation of Mongolia. Part of Mongolia resides within China. Inner Mongolia absolutely is Mongolia, but it is yet part of China. And if you're Han Chinese, the last thing you want to deal with is anybody who's not Han Chinese, and that includes the Mongolians within Inner Mongolia.
I mean, this returns to like the Taiwan discussion, right? China just considers Mongolia to be part of China, and if you don't like that, pound sand.
Yeah, well, because at some point in the past it was part of China, right? It's this very kind of fuzzy cultural. But the thing is they don't want Mongolians; they just want Mongolia, right? We'll build more Han Chinese and just export them until there's no more Mongolians.
Indeed. A very prima nocta-like view out of China here.
Apologies, everyone, but our hands are kind of tied. That's the message from Mongolia's government after it failed on Monday to execute an international arrest warrant against Russian President Vladimir Putin as he landed in the country on an official visit. I mean, let's be honest. There was probably some amount of military force just kind of hanging out north of Mongolia just in case they got squirrely.
Well, in the subsequent, let's be honest here, you don't fail to do things that you didn't try to do. All right.
Right.
We were never going to do this is not the same as, well, we had cuffs on Putin, but then he ran out the door. It's not even kind of close to the same. This kind of like, but Mongolia failed is, like what I failed to molest kids because I'm never, ever, ever going to do that for any reason. Like, it's not a failure, jackass. I was just never going to do it.
Yeah, I am sorry. I'm having audio problems here.
No worries. I will just keep talking relentlessly forever, and
No.
chat will appropriately learn to hate on me.
Well, let me just kind of keep on going here with the
Get it?
in a statement to Political on Tuesday, a Mongolian government spokesperson said the country finds itself in a position of energy dependence, rendering it difficult to handcuff Putin on the ICC warrant over war crimes. And so what you're saying is that national interests trump international, rules of law is what
That's
you're
true.
saying.
That's true if your name is not the United States.
Oh no. That's still true in the United States. It's just not your interest. It's the federal government's interest.
That's fair.
Well, right. The government is who is allowed to determine the interests of the state. And let's be honest, the American government absolutely doesn't support. It's rules for thee, not for me, when it comes to the international community in the United States. And there's a reason why we haven't signed the ICC treaty, right? Because then in that case, we'd be handing over all of our, Gulf War vets or, Iraq vets that found themselves, in legitimate combat and then were tagged by all these European news agencies for killing these media guys who were in the middle of a fucking battle.
Yeah. Welcome again to the games. These guys. One, dear various everybody, international law, if you think it's a good idea, you should read it. It is legitimately straight up communism. Two, it is the game of a handshake that says, yes, I totally agree with this, in the end, almost exclusively when it benefits me.
Right. Well, and the other part of it too is that it's international law is essentially in the modern era is the institutionalization of the Western hegemony of the United States over the Western system and by proxy to any system who wants to deal directly with or as part of the Western system. And so that includes Japan, South Korea, all the Asian countries that want to kind of play nice with the U.S., all the, African and Central Asian countries that want anything to do with the kind of the British, kind of Commonwealth system or anything like that. Those are the countries that join these because they want, kind of rule me harder, daddy, right? That's kind of the they want to fall under the umbrella of these larger hegemonies, and to the extent that the American hegemony is strong, you will start to see countries pull away, and that's exactly what we're seeing with the BRICS, right? Turkey has now basically said, well, we're still in NATO, and we'd love to be part of the EU, but let's be honest, we want to join the BRICS, and oh, by the way, hey, let's beat up these U.S. Marines who are coming to visit us in Izmir. By the way, that city Izmir, where those U.S. Marines were kind of fucked with in the street, that's the place that I was living last year. So, I mean, I never experienced anything like that. But at the same time, it was it was always kind of, you always got the feeling that, when you were in a crowd, one or two people were giving you the hairy eyeball. Says here, Mongolia imports 95% of its petroleum products and over 20% of its electricity from our immediate neighborhood, which have previously suffered interruption for technical reasons. Yeah, technical reasons, Mongolia. The supply is critical to ensure our existence and that of our people. See, this is the problem of being a landlocked nation surrounded by two authoritarian dictatorships. You just kind of, you tread lightly is what you end up doing. All right. And it goes on to just talk a little bit more about neutrality and blah blah blah. A little more about the their international obligations and relations. Not a whole lot. I love the name of the capital here, Ulaanbaatar. Bantar. That's a good one. A lot of A's there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 A's. All right, let's close that out and move on to the next. So, yeah, this is a kind of a different take on the same topic here. Putin in Mongolia, West dismisses all inconvenient facts as Kremlin propaganda. Just days ago, Russian government moved to ban over 90 journalists and media entities from the country. This came in the wake of the Kremlin opening investigations against American and Italian TV crews. Yeah, operating inside the Kursk Oblast, right? With Ukrainian forces. Maybe it's not a good idea to follow the Ukrainians into Russia when they invade Russia, if you want to stay kind of on the side of the angels, right? I mean, Don, that had to come to a surprise to you that Russia would get upset at CNN for going inside Russia on the Ukrainian.
I am shocked and amazed.
I mean,
who could possibly have seen coming? Like, hey, we told you not to do this. We told you, that this is one, a limited invasion of Ukraine from the beginning, and by the way, despite whatever the mainstream CNN types will tell you, that Putin is being somewhat limited in his engagement and has been since the beginning. And so what you want to do is broadcast them striking into Russia. Maybe just don't do that. Don't strike into Russia to begin with, and then don't be such a brazen douchebag that you're going to post it on CNN.
Yeah, just use the tried and true. Let the local stringer, independent stringer, go in, get the footage, bring the footage out. Then you buy the footage from him, and then you publish it, and just tell the story from the Ukraine, right? Then you can at least say, hey, listen, we are not. CNN has not invaded Russia, but in fact, CNN did invade Russia.
Exactly. And dear Western, as it were, journalists, I use that term loosely.
Yeah.
You are not in the United States. Okay. If the Russians in any way come in contact with you and you sit down and say, oh, I'm just a journalist, you are going to prison. All right. There is not, you can do what so many Americans, specifically journalists, have in the past and go, but the First Amendment. And you know what the Russians are going to say? Over there, not here.
Right. By the way, breaking news, Malaysia does not arrest Putin. The ICC issued a warrant for the arrest of Putin for war crimes last year. Consequences for a member of the ICC not enforcing rules? Not much. That's right, because international law is a fiction.
Yeah, and
it's not real.
It's a joke. The appeals to international law are ridiculous. There is some. This is very much like assault weapons ban things, right? Like, well, just nobody will have them if we just ban them.
It's feel good stuff, right? It's like the anti-landmine treaty. How is that working for you in Ukraine right now?
Right. Or in Afghanistan or in Iraq or like, in every single war where as soon as one side starts losing, what they do is plant explosives in the ground.
Right. Well, I mean, let's be honest. War is a pragmatic operation, right? When you need a certain tool, you just start using the tool.
Exactly.
Right? And if you stop buying it before, then you go find where it's for sale and you buy more of it.
Exactly. And this silly idea that, if Afghanistan and Iraq are losing in these wars, then what they're going to do is not use landmines. And we know that because we're going to change the name from landmine or booby trap to IED.
IED, right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a pressure plate IED. You mean it's a landmine?
Right.
Ukraine's foreign minister resigns as government. So, I mean, kind of in another kind of case of Russia kind of chugging on, Ukraine is absolutely deciding that, wow, there's too much corruption in our government. Again, let's completely reshuffle the cabinet. Ukraine's foreign minister, foreign affairs minister, has stepped down from his role as part of the wide-ranging reshuffle of the Ukrainian cabinet. Several Ukrainian officials also resigned from their post on Tuesday, leaving some of the government's top jobs vacant, including strategic industries minister in charge of weapons production. And that is a job I wouldn't want in Ukraine. The parliamentary leader of the ruling Servant of the People Party said that half of the cabinet would be changed in a major reshuffle this week. Let's see, Mr. Kuleba, the most senior of the ministers to resign, has been in his post since March of 2020. Minister of Parliament Ina Sovsun told BBC there were no questions about Mr. Kuleba's efficiency, and she was not aware of any disagreements between him and President Vladimir Zelensky. Maybe he's sick of all the money that's disappearing down the Zelensky black hole. Call me crazy, but that would piss me off too. The reshuffling the government this is what you call putting a good spin on things, right? Reshuffling the government is the best way to bring in new people, new ideas into a government which are very badly needed at the moment. It's almost like this whole kind of situation that Zelensky's gotten himself into is not going well.
Well, the dead hand of who's that idiot? John McCain is still reaching up from the grave and having incredibly positive effects on the entire world stage.
Gentlemen, given that we are firmly in territory where I have little to no commentary, this is probably the best moment for me to say good day. Hope the rest of the show goes smooth.
Yeah, we know. I knew your time was limited, so thank you for joining us, and we'll be wrapping up soon. Any final thoughts for the folks?
For those who are unaware, there's Give Send Go link in chat. It is for Don. He was arrested by the feds. We do want to support him in this. He's made some very quick headway given the time frame, but he definitely needs our long-term support. If you can take a look at the link, givesendgo.com/Don the Pleb. His wife owns the Give Send Go. It's all her money, and it's basically to help support them through this process. Please support him. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, brother. See you. All right, we got I think one more. Yes, this is our weekly check-in with David Axe over at Forbes. He's been doing a really good job of a tale of two offensives here in Ukraine. So let me share my screen. This will be our last story of the day. So this is kind of going back to, even when he's losing, he's winning.
Honestly,
hundreds of Ukrainian troops are about to get surrounded south of Pokrovsky. So the salient is formed west of the Volcha River. Russian forces march on Pokrovsky. And by the way, the offensive around this city is absolutely breakneck and continuing to go fast, even when the Ukrainians are stalling up at Kursk. And if you've been following the story with us here on the channel for a while, you know that that essentially the war has been going, in the media has been going great for Ukraine recently with their kind of blitzkrieg offensive into the Kursk Oblast. But the other side of that story has been, where have they taken those forces from? Fairly well trained, fairly well equipped, more mobile forces were tapped to lead that offensive. And so the problem is those came from the Donetsk region, where you're now seeing this breakneck offensive heading towards the city of Pokrovsky. And so if I remember correctly, there's 3 rail lines that go in there. It's just south of Izium. This was the kind of the city that they were going for from the north earlier in the war. But after that kind of that front collapsed. It was safe, but now they're coming from Avdiivka. This is that area. We've been talking about it, if you remember correctly, 6-9 months ago, we were talking a lot about Avdiivka. So this is now the next really big city, kind of along that kind of, east to west kind of line. As a strong Russian force with potentially tens of thousands of troops have closed within 6 miles of Pokrovsky, it's been bypassed. A strong Ukrainian force holding the line between the village of Myrmik and the Volcha River, threading north to south 3 miles east of Merk. The result of this is an exposed salient. By the way, a salient is nothing more than kind of like a thumb that's controlled by one side, whereas it's surrounded, kind of like a peninsula of control, surrounded on 3 sides by the enemy. They are both good and bad, right? Like, so when you have an offensive that punches a hole in the line, it creates a salient, right? And you keep kind of pushing through that weak spot in the line. The problem is that gives a lot of opportunities for people. So you have to secure the flanks of that salient and the shoulders of the salient. And this is all military talk, but
well, it's to the both good and bad. It's good if you're creating them whole cloth from nothing, because that is you advancing, and you can talk to me about flots all you want, and it should be one big line. But I mean, look, you break through some points before others, and that's just how it works. However, when the enemy is creating them, it is a sign that you are losing.
Yeah. Well, right. So in this case, this is showing the weakness of the Ukrainian forces in this area. And in this case, what you're seeing is essentially a salient of Ukrainian forces that are being surrounded by, so this is the one strong spot in the line that's staying, but it's getting bypassed by the Russian forces as they continue to the west, right?
Exactly.
And so then eventually it gets surrounded and then crushed. Which is what we're talking about here. The result is a salient junting eastward into the Russian line, a salient that with a few decisive Russian maneuvers could turn into a trap of hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers. Inside the salient are elements of the 59th Motorized Infantry Brigade, the 68th Jaeger Brigade, the 117th Territorial Defense Brigade, the 15th National Guard Brigade. It's a significant force, but one whose integrity depends on the 25th Airborne Brigade, which defends the village of Ukrainsk on the salient's northern corner. If the 25th Airborne Brigade, with its German-made Marder fighting vehicles, does not stop the enemy near Ukrainsk, the retreat could result in the encirclement by the enemy.
Can we pause and zoom out for just a minute here? The sort of unspoken, at least thus far, part of this story is that the Ukrainians are, by nature of this story, depending on a couple hundred guys. Now you can tell me they're greatly supported and whatever you want, but a couple hundred guys to stop the grinding advance of the Russian military that invariably is just adding more people, because that's what the Russians do until they win. This is a game of attrition. They cannot win. It is only a matter of time if you have 200 guys, and I don't care how well they are equipped, against what amounts to the infinite hordes of the Russian military.
Yeah. So actually, I've got I want to bring this out. Speaking of kind of zooming out and showing, I'm going to show this is a map. We haven't done a good map in a while, so why not? All right, so this is the interactive map on the ISW, which is the International. What is it? What is it called? Yeah, the Institute for the Study of War, right? And so this is. So if I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. So earlier in the war, this area here in the center of this red splotch right here was still controlled by the Ukrainians. But all the way over here to Kharkiv and this northern area was all controlled by the Russians. And so part of that was, and they basically shot down out of this area going north to south, right? And they seized the city of Izium right here. So the Russians controlled the city earlier in the war, right? But they pulled back from this area in order to consolidate their lines. And with the idea that they were going to take Kramatorsk, right? But another important city along this line is right here. This is Pokrovsk, right? So if you look here, this is Donetsk. So this basically this black line is where the war started. This is I'm pretty sure. I think there is a. Yeah, this is Russian control area before February. So that's what this black line is here, right? And so it looks like, oh, well, look, Russians haven't even gained much right here, since then. But if I'm going to go in a little further. Okay, so this city here, Avdiivka, right? Yeah. 6 to 9 months ago, Avdiivka was still controlled by the Ukrainians. Now the Russians are all over here. And about half of this has all happened within the last month and a half. And so they are just flying towards Pokrovsk here, which is a kind of, there's a lot of when they cut this off, this is going to cut off a lot of the lines of communications going into here.
I seem to recall the last time we were talking about this is central supply hub.
Yeah,
for what amounts to the Eastern Front.
Right.
And so, all well and good, even if you still have well-trained blah, blah, blah guys that are well-equipped and whatever the Forbes was talking about over there. But it turns out bullets are pretty necessary for fighting wars.
Shockingly.
And you're going to have a bad time if, you can't eat, you can't shoot, you can't replace busted gear because, believe it or not, wars break gear. And really all they have to do is take the one city to make that happen. That is an insane position to have put yourself in. And so while things may not be looking like they're going particularly great at the moment, because, hey, in the last 30 days, they've taken all this, your entire front line is going to collapse if you can't, keep food and bullets going to the front line. And there's no two ways about that.
And this is that city of Ukrainsk we were talking about, where that airborne unit is kind of held. So what you essentially have is our units in this area right in here. If you look at these kind of rivers and things like that, these create natural barriers that you just can't jump across this, right? I mean, you could individuals could make their way out, but ultimately it limits vehicular traffic. See, this road here has already been cut off this way. It's cut off probably by bridges here. So this becomes kind of a natural trap.
Yeah.
Just because of the terrain.
There's that one road that's major enough to be on the map at that level that's leading out west. And that is probably going to be the line of retreat when they finally decide that this is over. And that's not a good sign because it heads right up into either Russian controlled or Russian contested territory. And that's a good way to end up very, very mobile, but also not very defensible.
Yeah. Well, here's another. This is the salient they're talking about specifically. This is another zoom in. But essentially, you've got this entire area that you've got the idea is that the ways out are very limited, right? And so this is what makes this. So if you're defending here, but your way out is through these kind of choke points here, if these offensive thrusts here threaten these kind of choke points, that's how you get surrounded. I mean, theoretically, you could walk through some of this, if you dismounted and walked, but ultimately, that's not easy to do. And if you look at this terrain here, this is pretty flat right here. And if I had to guess, with all this water around, it probably is maybe even like some swampland in here or some lowlands or something. But right here, you've got this kind of a highland, like this ridge line here. or even a cliff in some places. So this is like a, it looks like this looks like a mesa type structure, like where it's kind of high and flat up here. Anyway, this is like basically forming a wall that these people that are in here can't get out of. So they've got to come through these areas where there's a road network or whatever that forces them. So that's the situation that they're in. And when these types of things happen, they make these kind of huge news stories, right? Because, we capture 700 Ukrainian soldiers they surrender or they're fighting to the death, right?
Right.
Well, this is a great story. The fighting to death is a great story for everybody except for the people who have to fight to the death.
Exactly.
And that's the reason why eventually they end up giving up. Slowdown would make some sense. The Russians have suffered extreme casualties. Yes, they have lost a lot of casualties. I think Dave actually made a story earlier, late last night, where the story was that the Ukrainians have destroyed like 200 armored vehicles of the Russians in this region recently. So the Russians are absolutely paying for every mile that they take. But they're willing to pay that price. So
welcome to the problem of dealing with Russia, right? So Americans in specific are used to, this is a high casualty operation that's going to dissuade us. Russia only has 1,000-year history of saying like, we're just going to throw bodies at the problem until the problem is solved.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. It's a complete mindset. It's a different mindset of war. But the Ukrainian position around Pokrovsk is fragile. Ukrainian general staff in Kiev is delicately balancing at least two major operations: the defense of Pokrovsk and also the surprise Ukrainian invasion of Kursk that kicked off early August. There are few troops to spare, so few that losing parts of 4 brigades inside the Senate would prove catastrophic for the Ukrainians. At the same time, a successful evacuation by those nearly surrounded troops could stiffen a straighten and shorten Ukrainian line. That's a very optimistic read on this. I don't think it's wrong. It's just optimistic.
Yeah.
In our view, so this is the Ukrainians. This is from the Ukrainians defending Pokrovsk. In our view, stabilization of this section of the front is needed, possibly by fall. After the Russian army exhausts its offensive potential, the front line is likely to come to standstill. Now, the Russians will slow down eventually, but mostly that will be because they want to consolidate, reorganize, re-equip, and strengthen those forces for subsequent offensives. We've seen consistent offensives in this area from Bakhmut all the way to Avdiivka. So this is you've heard about this kind of push for a long time. It's just moving from one city to the next.
Exactly.
In this region.
Well, this goes back to the original brilliant American general assessments of this war. Russia should be able to take this in 2 days or whatever stupid crap was being promoted back at the beginning of the war. That's not how Russia fights. You're watching very clearly how Russia fights. They grind slowly. They stop on their own timelines and rearm. Now, if your mentality is, we just keep slamming bodies into the problem until the problem is solved, then the one thing that you can't ever do is run out of bodies. And now, what does that mean? That means you have to stop on occasion, plug more bodies into the charging force, and then go back to going. Go back to the fight. And that it is not surprising in any way to see them doing this. And I don't know how ridiculously much of a partisan hack you have to be to say, like, well, Russia should have taken this in like we did Iraq in 2 weeks, because American doctrine for fighting has been based on how the Russians fight for the past 50 years. We know what they're doing. We know how they're going to do it. And this premise that they should fight like us is ridiculous.
Yeah, this is exactly right. I mean, the problem is, and this kind of goes to the analysis that we were talking about before the war even started, kind of late 21. We were talking about this on the earliest, kind of iteration of this program, was that a complete obtuse reading of Russian culture and Russian priorities and Russian it's like we don't, we see the world through the American eyes, and those are the only eyes worth looking at the world. And if a problem isn't a problem to Americans, then it's not a problem, right? So this is the reason why I'm constantly find myself saying, okay, if Texas broke away from the United States and then China started doing military, training with the new Texas Army, we might not like that. And if China started giving entreaties to Texas to join their defense treaty organization, we may say, "Fuck this! We're taking Texas back."
Exactly.
It's essentially what Putin has decided to do.
And strangely good analogy. And the thing that consistently, this incredibly narcissistic view of the world, that specifically the American press likes to hang out with, is just take a look at a topographical map of make sure that you've got Kiev and Moscow inside the map, and what you will see is there is a huge open line, giant fields that you could march across with very little effort between Kiev and Moscow. Right. And if you could go all the way to the borders of Ukraine right next to Russia, the idea that you could head to their capital city in a day if you decided to invade Russia is rightly concerning to other countries. If to make the Texas analogy particularly functional in this sense, DC would have to be in eastern Colorado. And if it was, there's no way we would ever let these people, let somebody else have less than 1 day travel time between, the border of the country and, the capital city. It would never, ever, ever happen. Right. This idea is totally lost on people who mostly are just dishonest.
I mean, the problem is they refuse to kind of broaden their ability to, it's like, I try to understand why, so like, I always kind of go back to like the liberal impulse, right? Like, so why do regular people want to support things like liberal politics and even communism, right? And ultimately, there are two impulses, right? One is the authoritative and controlling impulse, and the other is sadly the misguided yet almost altruistic idea of, hey, I want to help the most people, and the best way to do that is for the rich to sacrifice. And we need to set up a system in the government so that the rich can sacrifice their wealth to help the poor, right? So these are people who think that the poor should be helped, which is a laudable kind of goal of compassion. But ultimately, they cast aside compassion for authoritarian, kind of like stranglehold of another. And that is always a non-starter. Swinging Cod for $10 says the Russians did initially try and fight like us. The VDV drop at Kiev International along with armor columns. Yeah. So the interesting thing is that Russia was looking at a kind of a redesign of their military that basically they've got two types of forces. They've got their contract forces, which are the professional forces. And then they've got the conscript forces, right? So these conscript forces are the ones that are being written about a lot in the Kursk area, where these are, low-paid conscripts that are generally not sent overseas. They're, only used inside Russia, but they are, of course, not well-paid and probably not well-trained. But there are more professional forces, like the airborne forces were kind of in that. They had several armored, like guards, armored units and things like that, that had more kind of Western style organization and professionalism. The problem is, and I'm convinced that if Putin knew the state of his military on day one of the war, he would never have invaded. And that is because it had been hollowed out through just endemic corruption, rotten tires, people stealing, people selling, stolen goods. Like fuel was just absolutely, probably for every gallon that went into a tank, a gallon went off the back of the truck and got sold onto the local economy. So yeah, the problem in order to have a highly professional force, you need to need to gain a handle on corruption. The corruption in the Western militaries has more to do with ideological corruption than the kind of the personal corruption that you see within the Russian military. But yeah, corruption nonetheless, and the ideological corruption would be shocking, and if we had to get into a high intensity conflict. Don?
I think the controlling point of when to invade had little to nothing to do with the state of his military. If you're Russia and the president of the United States says, well, as long as it's a small incursion, we're not going to do anything, then what you're being told, regardless of the truth of the matter, is that, the international community is going to let you go take care of this problem. And you're probably not getting that promise again anytime soon. And in that sense, you go to war with the army you have becomes the controlling principle, as opposed to, hey, what we should do is spend the next 10 years shaping up the entire military, because in 10 years, who knows if you're going to be able to go after Ukraine without all kinds of serious problems, not to mention the speeding up of trying to put Ukraine into NATO, right? The political considerations were probably substantially greater than the military implications. And so you get kind of forced into a position where do it now or don't do it at all, and just accept the consequences of not doing it at all. And as much as that sounds like a tactical and or strategic blunder, Russia is not the first military, including us, to go to war, and then the moment we get there, go, oh man, we've let the military languish, and we really need to fix this. And then spend the first year or 2 or 5 trying to get the military back into top shape so that it can fight wars in the way that we want it to, because politics had been the guiding principle prior to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is the problem with large organizations. You always have these kind of. There's always problems with it, right?
Yes.
All right. Let me. Don, that's all I have for the show today. I appreciate having this little kind of nerded out a little bit here at the end on some of the military stuff with Ukraine, but ultimately it just goes to show that Putin's going to continue on, right? He's just going to do his thing. Anybody who says that Putin is he's going to die of cancer any day now, or he's going to be toppled by a erstwhile mercenary, or he's going to be arrested when he goes out of the country by the ICC. I mean, this is just, pablum.
Yeah, it is cope to the most extreme degree, right? In the same vein is back at the beginning of the war, Putin was autistic and moments from having any number of medical issues and on and on and on.
Right. Philip Cagos for $4.99 says everyone needs to read about 1942 when the Axis owned us. I'm not quite sure what that's in reference to. 42 is when the Germans ran into Stalingrad.
Yeah, but that wasn't us, right? Our initial entrance into the war was not amazing for. Depending on who you're talking to, 6 months to 2 years.
I mean, about the only really great success we had in the early years of the war was like the Doolittle raid, and we were sucking hind tit with in Northern Africa for sure.
Yeah.
But we had successes, and but let's be honest, the a well-supplied professional military will always be excellent. And the German army in 1942 was still fairly well supplied and had not started to get hollowed out on the Eastern Front like what you saw in 44.
Yeah.
Late 44, the things that the German army could do in 44 was amazing. The fact that they didn't collapse in detail, and they were still able along the Eastern Front to consistently resupply with ammunition. They may not have had anything else, but they had cold weather gear and ammunition.
Yeah. There's I forget the name because why would I remember a name? But there was one specific unit out in Russia that ended up, encircled, and the real turning point for the Germans was right about there when, the command back in Germany was saying, yeah, we'll totally send you stuff. And, there are letters from those guys back to Germany that are like, hey, are you ever going to send this? And it's right about the time they start asking that question that you see the Germans not being able to resupply.
Right. Peter Chase Helicopter says, Scott, I suggest you refamiliarize yourself with Baron von Clausewitz on war. If I ever read Clausewitz again, it will be too soon. Just don't even talk to me about Jomini either. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. Don, any final thoughts for the folks before we say goodnight?
Not in show related things, but as has been previously mentioned a couple of times, givesendgo.com/donthepleb. It really does matter. It is of rather extreme importance, and I can't thank you guys enough for how supportive you've already been. But Hunter rightly pointed out it's going to be a long war, and it's not going to be cheap. So if you can, by all means, please donate. If you can't, please share. I understand either way, and appreciate both things about equally as much. There are a couple of you who are incredibly generous, and I don't know how to even say thank you for that, because this went from there's really nothing I can do about this, and I'm going to just kind of have to suck it up, and we'll see what happens from here, to the capability to fight back in a day. And that's incredible. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for anything that you've done on that front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we appreciate knowing that you guys are out there supporting this. You guys have been awesome thus far. And hopefully you're not given so much that you won't be able to kind of maybe look back at this a month from now and maybe re-give a little bit, because like I said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. So, all right. So thank you, Don, for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the other guys, Hunter and Watcher, for being here. Looking forward to having other guys back on the show again. Friday should be interesting. A lot of domestic politics going on. So we'll be talking about some of that stuff. There's a lot of other interesting kind of conflict and bubbling and brewing conflict in the world. So we'll see what we have for you guys on Friday. So for all the guys in the CFC and all the great, wonderful people in the chat, thank you very much. If you haven't done already, please like the channel, subscribe, like the show, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and definitely share the link out there with your friends. We don't get any love from the algorithm, so your word of mouth is the most powerful thing out there spreading. Kind of like Meme Copium's raid earlier. So if you're a Meme Copium fan and you're still here, thank you for hanging with us. As always, stay safe.